Welcome, everyone, to the captive audience. It's the 27th of October in 2025. And I am Kevin Horn. I'm here with one of our very illustrious guests who joins us on probably a bi monthly basis, Representative E. Werner Reschke. And remind me of your district number again, because I always forget.
55.
55. Double nickel. That's right. I
That's
can't
it. Yeah.
drive.
55. Yeah. That's it.
And you got a nice slice there of Southern Oregon and
And Deschutes County. So we go up to Deschutes County, southern Deschutes County. So it's really nice.
but you also delve into a lot of different issues. I think you're between you and Representative Deal, you seem to be kind of the intellectual firepower of the Republican caucus, and
I'm the handsome and humble intellectual firepower of the caucus.
unlike Representative Deal, right?
He's on his own account. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and we're fortunate to have you and Representative Deal in our caucus. And the thing is, there's thought leadership because we're facing thoughtlessness and lawlessness on the other side of the aisle, which has laid siege not just to our cities and our state, but frankly, right now our country's facing a lot.
Right.
And it's fortunate that we have people that are willing to fight back against that. But just to kind of touch upon some of the issues we want to cover today, I think, why don't we start out talking a little bit about when we last spoke, I think the transportation package tax thing had not passed yet, but it was kind of inevitable, but we didn't know for sure. And now it has. And now there's this kabuki dance where an emergency session called by the governor to address an emergency has now resulted in a bill that's been passed, and she's not signing it into law.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It was an emergency session called on for August 29th. And the House finished its business within, I think, 4 days. I think on the 1st or 2nd of September. 1st of September, we passed the bill. I voted no, but the House in whole passed the bill to the Senate. And then the Senate had to go through its procedures and was going to vote on it on that Wednesday, which I think was the 3rd. And then they said, nope, we're going to hold up for 2 weeks because the senator can't make it who would get them over the finish line. And then after that 2 weeks, they had to say, well, we're not ready yet. He's still not well enough to come in. We're going to go another 2 weeks. So the emergency that started on August 29th didn't get done until September 29th. Or thereabouts. So 1 month of emergency, and not because Republicans didn't show up, and not because Republicans didn't engage, not because Republicans didn't add ideas to the discussion, but because Democrats wanted to pass the bill on their own. They would not compromise. They would not change it. They would not modify. They would not say, here's something we can give you. How many votes can we get? And have an actual discussion. Nope, they wanted to carry it themselves. They wanted to pass the tax themselves. And so they waited a month on this emergency by the governor. And now we're almost a month after that, and the governor hasn't signed it because apparently it was really, really an emergency. So
super urgent.
So urgent. And she probably won't sign it till early next month. I think she has 30 business days, which ends up being, I can't remember the exact number, but it's more than 30. Yeah,
it's
the
like
weekend.
40 days, probably closer to 40 with the weekends.
42, something like that. Yeah, 40. But anyways, that's not that much. You're right. It's about 40. But anyways, this emergency that started on August 29th, the only thing the legislature was, quote, doing as far as legislation, and we can't get it done. And the whole reason, of course, that they're delaying now, or the governor's delaying, is to limit the number of days that we will have to collect signatures. So every tax bill requires that 90 days have to go by before it goes into law. And so that clock started on September 29th. But signature gathering can't happen until the governor signs it. So while that 90-day clock started, the signature gathering doesn't start until the governor signs it. She knows that. She's going to wait the last possible day, last possible minute is my guess. Sign it, and then we will be off to the races for about 54 days to collect 78,000 signatures.
And it sounds like it's going to be a lot of pressure is going to build because a lot of people are just real eager to sign it, and it's going to make a lot of news when she does sign it. And she's
Yep.
warned us, of course, that all these things are just going to disappear as soon as anybody decides they want to sign it. Like
Yep.
they've already, just by agreeing to have a vote potentially by signing a petition, they are jeopardizing our transportation. The roads won't get plowed. The potholes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's things that should be being done right now. I don't know how to say that. That's too many is forms of the conjunction of the word verb is, but or to
Yeah.
be. But anyways, they've got they should be doing things right now. ODOT should be preparing for winter, and they're assuming that the funding's coming in. But if the people say no, they haven't got any backup plan. I
Yep.
would recommend maybe looking at the Republican options that we put in there that didn't require any tax increases and could fix the problem for ODOT, and we could go on our merry way. But I don't think they'll do that.
No, no. And, there's another thing that we'll just have to watch for and see if it actually happens. But there is a history of um, the legislature coming into session and then moving the date of a um, petition referral of a tax. I last saw
Right.
this
Right.
in it was Measure 6667 in 2009, and then prior to that, Measure 30 in 2003. They moved
Mhm.
it to 2000 January of 2004,
Yeah.
and
A real
they,
popular month for voting is January.
yeah, people love that, and of course they love having people campaign to them over Christmas. That's one of their favorite things.
Yes. It's one of my few favorite things. That's right. Exactly. Just
But it is the case that that this is the cornerstone of the governor's plan for the last session, and she hasn't delivered on much. So she's
no.
kind of at this point where the few things that she is doing, she kind of arrogantly just says, "Well, who cares? Nothing's wrong, really." Um, Except that we have emergencies constantly for funding. There's no
Right.
emergency apparently for making sure businesses stay or don't leave the state of Oregon.
So
Um,
the big talking point on the left or the progressive side, if I want to be charitable, is that 500 ODOT jobs were in jeopardy, and Republicans were concerned about that too. But Democrats moved heaven and earth almost to pass this bill.
yeah,
At the same time, we've lost nearly 25,000 private sector jobs, and Democrats have done nothing
zero.
to prevent that from augmenting and getting worse. I'm curious what the number is going to be when we get to the end of the year. I hope it's just 25,000, which is awful, but I hope it doesn't grow.
Yeah, and the word emergency never comes up with that. So
No,
so so really,
what I've learned, Kevin, yeah, is all jobs are equal. Some jobs are more
more
equal than
equal than
other.
others. Yeah.
Yes. So if
Yeah,
you're
I
a
mean that's
food worker, you have a more equal job.
yeah, yeah. Well, they're going to be equal somewhere else is where they're going to
Yes.
be when it comes to private sector jobs. And there's other states. I just was hearing, being reminded that Intech, which I think is in Albany,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
around there. Yeah.
they they got lured to Indiana with $1.5 billion. Like
Ugh.
Indiana is not messing around, and they're just slightly bigger than Oregon in terms of population.
That's sad. That's a number three then, another big one that's moving out. We have Tektronix, who used to be the largest employer in Oregon, and then you had Dutch Bros, and now you've got this Entech. So
Yeah.
that's not great. That's I would say not a way to fund your government if that's what you're concerned about is letting big businesses like that leave.
Yeah, because you can't replace those businesses with government workers,
No.
because that's like it's like the when you see one of those power strips and somebody takes one end of the power strip that's supposed to go on the wall and they plug it into the other end of the power strip and say, "See, problem solved."
Plugged in, ready to roll. Right, exactly. Yeah.
That's right. See,
I
electricity
say
flows through the wires.
for for about 30 years, I worked, well, over 30 years, I worked in the private sector and I paid taxes. And then I got this job in 2016, 2017, and get my paycheck from the state. And I realized that I really don't pay taxes anymore. I just am part of the class that recycles money.
Recycles money.
We don't generate wealth. We recycle our money. So if my taxes get bigger, guess what? We advocate for higher pay wages, which then come out of the private sector. So the private sector is really the ones that pay the taxes. I
So
want to jump back quickly to one thing
yeah,
on transportation tax. Is that now coming out of the woodwork are some Democrat senators who are saying that they're disappointed the governor isn't signing this so that people can vote.
yeah. Jeff Eager wrote a column about this saying Dem Rep wants fewer procedural games as tax bill sits unsigned on Kotek's desk. I mean,
Right, right,
that's
right.
bad when you embarrass fellow Democrats into saying, "Oh, this actually doesn't look too good."
No, it's interesting. There's that, and there's they voted yes on the bill, and now they want enough signatures so people can vote on the bill because I think they have figured out a little late that the yes vote was not a good vote. The yes vote was an unpopular vote. So now they're saying, oh, we voted yes so that you would have a chance to vote on it. That's what we did. And it's the governor who's messing that up. We wanted you to have, and the fact of the matter is they could have easily amended the bill to send this to the voters right away.
Yeah, they
We
could
didn't
have.
have to collect one signature. It could have been in the bill that this would be referred to the voters for final approval, no questions asked. If that's really what they wanted, I don't think that's what they wanted. I just think they've figured out a little late that this was a bad vote.
And I think yeah, you're right. There's several of these folks. Jeff Eager writes great columns, and
Yes,
he
he does. Good
he
stuff.
he's regular on our show here too. And um, so Emerson Levy, of course, you know what they do. He goes, neither side of politics is immune to procedural games, but at a time when faith in our democratic process is low, we need fewer games, more trust building. So they blame both sides for something they're doing.
I'm
And
done with the both sides argument in the sense that the legislature, that is all it is. It's procedure, right? If we didn't have
yep,
procedure, we'd have chaos. And if we, quote, didn't play games, if Republicans didn't, quote, play games to slow things down, bills would just roll right through that legislature faster than you'd find out years later what happened because it went so fast. So the games we play now, the games they play are to make sure bills pass, like uh, holding up a special session for over a month and then delaying the signature. Those are the games they play to make sure things pass. And our games are to make sure that the constituents are aware of what's going on because we are pretty convinced when people understand what's going on, like this transportation tax, that it's unpopular and maybe, just maybe, people in the next election will consider a different way of voting.
and I want to kind of draw a contrast. And I know that you're a state legislator, and this is there's state issues, there's federal issues, but actually there's quite a connection between the state and the federal side, especially when it comes to money and budgets. And so let's see. Democrats don't see any reason to compromise. They play procedural games, um, and they do it to pass something that 93% of the people who gave testimony said was a bad idea, and then they don't want voters to have any say on it.
Right.
But when they talk about when the same delegation, Democrats, but the federal delegation swear that what someone should do, that this is actually totally legit and maybe popular, they think, to actually force the federal government to shut down
Yep.
and be unable to function so that they can take a minority position and make it a majority position or override the majority and force through a bunch of changes that they lost in the last election about. And then they say what really needs to happen is that Republicans must come and compromise. Well, they don't really seem to care about compromise except when they are shutting the government down. And so
Right.
I just look at all these, it's like two parallel universes. The Democrats don't see any contradiction. Like in one universe, up is down and down is up, and the sky is green and the ground is blue. And they don't see the conflict between the other universe. And then they're actually in the name of helping people that are reliant on government benefits, they're going to deprive people of government benefits. Literally, it looks
No.
like, what is it? WIC and SNAP
Yep.
benefits are probably not going to go out shortly to 40 million people across the country and quite some people in Oregon.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and uh, we do have reserve funds that we could use to make those payments in lieu of. But my guess is the governor won't do that because she wants a crisis in her mind. Well, at least my calculus is her campaign strategy is blame Trump. That's just basically her whole campaign is blame Trump. So any pain that comes from the federal government, doesn't matter whether the state has overextended itself, doesn't matter if the state is uh, spending money on health care for non-citizens and illegal aliens, does not matter. The problem is Trump. And so any way she can spin that and cause pain to Oregonians, it's Trump's fault. I'm sure if the tax doesn't pass a voter referendum, it will be Trump's fault. So
Oh,
in
she's
fact, the international bridge, the interstate bridge project, replacement project, I-5, just I think lost some federal funding as well. And the head of that whole project just resigned. So 2010, we spent, I think, several hundred million on
yep.
consultants and whatever, and never put a shovel in the ground. And I think we just repeated ourselves again in 2025 with the same kind of thing. And this is just showing you how inept and how poorly run this government is.
And they're really good at reaching across the aisle to and working with the administration by calling them dictators and fascists and
Yes.
kings. And
Yes.
you know, so a bunch of us have been saying to each other, it's like, so if President Trump is a king, why are you allowed to protest against him?
Yeah.
I mean,
He's
really?
a pretty awful king, isn't he? I think
Yeah,
the
not
rules of
good at
being
it.
a king. We should get him a manual. This is what you can do as king. Anything, right? And he's pretty bad at letting people protest. He's pretty bad at a lot of things. So if
Yeah.
indeed he is a king,
Yeah, he keeps having people exercise their recourse through our court system,
yeah,
and he wins some cases, others he doesn't. He modifies his. What kind of king does that? What
right,
kind of king
exactly,
allows some court to have some say in what's going on, huh?
exactly. There is one branch of government when there's a king, and it's the king.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and so I don't see how getting more money. I guess they don't really care about the I-5 bridge, and they don't really care about what happens to people that are on SNAP benefits in Oregon. It's just they care about the politics, which is why
Yes,
it was an emergency session, not to get transportation funding, but to get a political goal accomplished, and that's
right.
it. It's a political
Save
emergency.
500 jobs without changing one thing at ODOT. That was their goal.
And that is one department that is in absolute desperate need. They made a $1 billion miscalculation. Nobody got fired. And what are we going to do? Let's give them some more money and raise taxes when we do it.
That's
People
right.
love that, you
Yeah.
know. So it's fascinating what's happening right now. And I'm looking at there's a recent some recent news. Tina Kotek has issued a new climate order, and apparently it's going to hit farmers and loggers pretty hard. I don't know if you had a chance to look that one over, but
Yeah. I,
what
I, I
what
made
is
I
that
made
about?
mention that I made mention of that on Twitter, and it's or X. I'm sorry, sorry, Elon X. Um,
Yeah,
uh, I know its reach is pretty far. I just don't know how far, but and it's been getting some good response. And let me see if I can just pull it up real quick.
Yeah.
Just it's doing okay.
And it's actually got coverage in Seattle, which is interesting to me.
Yeah.
So
here was my response to the governor doing that. It was, Oregon has spent tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in the effort for net zero CO2 emissions. How has all that spending changed the climate to date, either in Oregon or globally? This EO hurts Oregonians. It will do nothing to save the planet. And I have a modest following of like 1,300 people or bots. I'm not quite sure who they are, but I've got 1,300 things out there following me. And this has almost gotten 8,000 views. So
yeah.
I'm way overperforming my natural reach. And it's a hot button because, again, this is, again, a bid to the climate god, to the sun god and the rain god, to keep the left base in line. That she's their standard bearer, and this is what matters to them. And to me, it's like we just keep hurting our economy. I don't know. I guess we have to be 50th before people will wake up, and then even then, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's all political worship, because if this is not a very powerful god that they're worshiping, because apparently that god has very little influence over the actual temperature of the earth. It's.
I always ask them what's the optimal temperature, and they don't have an answer, because there isn't an answer. And actually, we have 8 billion on the planet now, and I don't know what the projections are to continue to grow. But let's say we get to 12 billion and 20 billion. We're going to need more food, that stuff that we all like to eat. And in order to do that, we need to grow more food. And to do that, a greener planet, a planet full of CO2, is actually a better thing than a worse thing. And people die more from the cold than they do the heat. So overall, if the planet is warming, which I still am kind of questioning whether that's true or not, or by how much, if it is, I would say that's a better thing than if we were in a global cooling spell.
I mean, why measure it accurately if everything you're doing really isn't changing it any? You just keep claiming that what do we need to fix the climate? More money, more time, which is the answer to everything, and more power, more control. And
they have one club in their bag, and it's to tax you more.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter whether they're on the fairway, they're in the rough, they're just off the green, or they're 2 feet from the cup. They have one club.
Yep, they're putting somewhere deep into the fairway, and they're still claiming they're going to win the Masters. No matter what.
History's on their side right now. I mean, 44 years a Democrat governor, and nearly 20 years as a Democrat legislature. They've done well. So why would they change? Why would they get other clubs in their bag if this one works so well?
Well, so speaking of clubs in their bag, there is. I'm just going to jump to this story, because there is a 300-mile power line that was supposed to serve the public. Now it's only going to go to a data center, and there's a serious issue that's going to affect the entire state and everybody in it about getting power. And when you talk about things that maybe they should think about declaring an emergency on, or they will have to at some point if they don't take strategic, strident action, which would be bipartisan probably in many cases, they're doing nothing about this.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the smart meters we almost all of us have on our homes.
Yeah.
Because I think it allows the power company to do too much when they need to do rolling brownouts.
Yes.
Right? And so I think this is not a great thing. I think that the issue here is that we have, because of Oregon's policy, we basically forced our big power producers to shut down coal plants and natural gas plants, which were working just fine, very affordable, and had long runway.
And closed dams.
And closed dams. We had 4 dams been taken out of here that powered what basically created enough power like for Klamath Falls, the town of Klamath Falls, which is about 40,000, given or take a few. But a town that size, those four dams created enough energy to 24/7, 365. Now those are gone. So you have to find power to do that. And we're not building anything else except for solar and wind. And that's intermittent. And so we're getting to a point where we're going to have brownouts. And then you add to the mix data centers, and not just data centers, but AI data centers,
Right.
which are extremely hungry. And there's not only just power that those things need, they also need water.
Yeah.
And so we're going to run into a water crisis as well, because those things demand huge amounts of water every day. And so it's not just going to be power, it's going to be water. And it's kind of us versus Skynet, I think, about, coming pretty soon.
Yeah, really.
Not sure.
Be asking AI, what do we do about Oregon's power and water shortage? And the answer is, I'm not going to tell you because it's not good for AI.
No, the answer is feed the data center. Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Feed the data center first. Right, yeah.
Well, so that's one of those serious issues. And we just we just hinted at the government shutdown. Meanwhile, the Democrats are spending a lot of time talking about how there's nothing wrong and everything is great in Portland.
Yeah.
And yet there are people like Kevin Dahlgren showing what's wrong in Portland. And there are all kinds of journalists that are going out there that are personally covering what's happening around the ICE building. And there's all these reporters in Oregon that are ignoring it and not telling anybody about it. And so Tina Kotek's like, nothing to see here. Meanwhile, they've got a quasi paramilitary operation Antifa operates every day between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. that apparently you won't see if you go there at 2 in the afternoon when the media shows up before deadline.
Like our U.S. senator, exactly right, in this pumpkin patch.
That's right. And it's like, so, and they literally are running, they can do whatever they want. And Trump's like, no, you can't. But there's a court case. It's kind of making its way through the court system.
Tomorrow, I hear. Yeah.
And apparently no king has interfered with that court case yet. That's last I heard.
Weird.
But there are people who are very fascist-like that are operating with impunity in Portland, and it's not ICE and it's not the federal government. It's Antifa, the supposed anti-fascists.
Right. No, it's fascinating. I find that this whole thing that's going on in Portland is, in my view, somewhat of a distraction. I mean, it's important, and we should protect our federal buildings, and we're not. And so that's why the federal government's getting involved to protect itself.
Yeah.
And that's why Trump has issued National Guard troops to come protect it, so the ICE workers can actually go out and do their job rather than spending time protecting the building that they work in.
Yep.
So I get that, but in the bigger picture, what affects each Oregonian, I would say more, is what's happening in Salem. So the more we spend time looking at ICE, the more time we spending at Antifa, the more, yes, let's deal with that. But really the big story should be Governor Kotek and her tax, Governor Kotek and her executive orders, Governor Kotek, and coming up in 2026 is the Climate Protection Program, which is slated to cost businesses in Oregon $150 million in its first year just to be compliant. So these are the stories that really should be on the hearts and minds of Oregonians, because these stories will impact them. No Oregonian will be able to hide from them because they are statewide.
Yes, and actually, Governor Kotek didn't answer why she won't sign the emergency transportation tax bill, but she did. One of her talking heads in the media, they send people out to go and explain things when they don't want to say it themselves. And they have this professor that's supposedly a neutral observer from one of the super hyper liberal colleges. Yeah, that's right. Who could that be? And he was asked, what is it? And they said, well, actually, she's probably very busy dealing with the National Guard situation
Yeah.
in Portland. That's why she's doesn't have any time to sit down and move a pen across a piece of paper
Yeah.
for nearly 40 days in an emergency. And
And travel to Japan and South Korea. Yeah.
that's right. She's off to where she's going to talk about tourism that's suffering in Oregon because of all the problems in Oregon, right?
You know,
So
and I was talking with somebody the other day about, the governor was saying, if Republicans and others would quit bad mouthing Oregon, things would get better. Businesses would come back, and businesses wouldn't leave. And that's I just don't buy that, because businesses, when they decide they're going to come somewhere, they do due diligence. They really do a lot of studying. They do a lot of comparison. They don't just read a headline in USA Today and say, oh, we can't go to Oregon, we can't go to Portland. No, they do their work. And what's happening the numbers are not in favor for Oregon, whether it's taxes, whether it's regulations, whether it's fees, whether it's all this stuff. It's just not in favor of Oregon. So it's not that we're bad mouthing the state. We're telling it like it is, hoping Oregonians will wake up and vote differently in 2026.
yeah, and I think that that never has a Republican point of view been so utterly powerful as to bring Oregon's economy or tourism to a halt. Because most of the people in Oregon actually have no idea what we said unless we do what we do, like the show, and even then, if you go and try to find an actual Republican opinion in most of the news outlets that reach people, the vast numbers of people in Oregon, you won't find it.
You
Either
won't find it, or it's at the bottom of
misrepresented.
the page, or it's twisted. It's not
That's right,
what it's
exactly. It'll be
So
misrepresented or not there at
I'm
all.
very familiar with that latter technique, where it became very famous for something I never said.
That's
So
right. So apparently, all of a sudden, we have this an amazing effect upon tourism in other states. You know
yeah,
what it is? It's like I think that is what does bother them the most about the Antifa stuff in Portland, is that when you show actual video of what's happening there,
yeah,
and then you go and send that across the country, you don't get people who just want to come to a weird, quirky city and be safe and enjoy a night out.
yeah.
And you do get another kind of tourist. You get the kind of tourist who wants to go and join what
Right,
Antifa's doing and
right.
do what they're doing.
Terrorist tourism. An interesting idea there, Kevin. We'll have to rattle that one around a bit.
Yeah, really. Well, maybe that's what Tina's over there talking to Japanese
Maybe
about.
so.
Send
Uh,
us your Antifa supporters because
yeah,
they
if
love
you end up with no thumb, then come on over.
it. Right. You have to. Well, to qualify, they have to big. Have you seen the pictures of the Antifa people? They have like massive
Oh yeah,
scars.
yeah,
Look
they're
horrible.
well adorned.
They look like the extras from Mad Max or something.
Yes,
You
yes.
know,
I think
that's
that's
what they
where they
remind.
get their. Yeah, I think you're right on. They're either ahead of their time, or they're in a false reality. I think maybe a little of both, but
Little
yes.
of both. Yeah, a little of both. And that false reality is perpetuated by media that frankly doesn't tell what's really happening. Now, um, uh, coming back to the government shutdown, um, there is an issue with. I'm just going to say it's called Obamacare. It
Hmm.
manifests itself in many ways. There's also Medicaid, right?
Yep, yep.
But the Democrats are very concerned that a subsidy is going to go away that was meant to be temporary. The Biden administration, when in 2021, when Democrats controlled the presidency and both the
Chambers.
House
Yeah.
and the Senate, yeah, they passed and signed into law a temporary subsidy that was supposed to last during COVID.
Yep.
That was what it was there for, and its purpose was to deal with potentially people being unable to afford insurance on the marketplace, the Obamacare healthcare marketplaces.
Right.
Well, that doesn't make healthcare cheaper. It just makes it so that you don't notice it's gotten more expensive. And then fast forward to a, an expiration that was created by the Democrats and the Obama administration in 2021
Right.
that they are now blaming Republicans for and shutting the government down. There is an issue with healthcare, isn't there? It has gotten much more expensive, and this thing about having access to healthcare is very different from being able to afford it. Yet it
Yeah.
was called the Affordable Care Act. And so now apparently we can't have affordability unless a massive government subsidy that was only meant to be temporary is now made permanent. Does
And
that
this,
fix healthcare in Oregon?
yeah, I mean, I think you look at that. That's just as a broader principle. This is the way Democrats often operate. They will pass something and make it temporary, saying, "Oh, don't worry, we're just spending it for these few years to get through this thing." And then when it comes to expiration, if Democrats had been in charge right now, right, they would have passed it to make it permanent without saying a word. It had been shoved in some bill somewhere, somehow, some way, and nobody would have known about it. And that temporary thing would have become permanent. And that's what they do in rules in Oregon. When agencies are making rules, they'll make a temporary rule. And then when the temporary rule comes up to be expired, they say, "Oh, let's make it permanent because we've been doing it already."
Yeah,
What?
really.
What? No, no. We didn't like the temporary rule. You can't make it permanent. Oh, we've been doing it, and people seem to like it. Well, yeah, when you give away stuff, people like that. Yeah, sure. So, but yeah, healthcare has gotten prohibitively expensive, especially after Obamacare. We have it's not great. I mean, there are no. It used to be for insurance, health insurance, you'd have a physical exam every year, right? And based on that exam, they'd go through the actuary tables of your health and your age and maybe some other history factors, and they'd come up with a rate for you. But now it's just like, oh, nope, you live in this area, and so here's your rate. And so they spread it across a great number of people, and every time you add government to something, it just becomes more expensive. It just does. Somebody once said, if you think healthcare is expensive now, wait till it's free.
Yeah, right.
And in thinking in that, that's what's going on here. That when you don't have to pay for your healthcare insurance, or you have to pay very little for what it really costs, you'll go to the doctor every day if you want to, right? Because the doctor makes you feel good. Somebody calls your name. Oh, they said my name. I get to go in the back room. The nurse comes in and takes my blood pressure, and they ask me some questions, and then the doctor comes in and they ask me questions, and they make me lay down or stand up or whatever. And that's pretty not a bad day. Might want to go. I mean, I had a friend who worked at a long-term care facility, and actually that's what happened with a lot of the residents in that facility. One guy would go to a doctor for his sore elbow, and he'd come back and tell everybody, and then everybody went to go see that doctor because they heard it was he was really good for their sore elbow or their sore knee or their sore back or whatever. And frankly, it was just a way to get out of the nursing home. It was a trip out.
It
Right?
was a vacation from the nursing home, yeah,
Or from the long-term care facility. I think nursing home's an old term. That shows you how old I am. But yeah, it was. So it just, when you remove cost from things, people will waste it.
well, and they mandate stuff. So
Yeah.
it health insurance went from something that would cover, extraordinary, costly, unlikely circumstances, and it's almost like saying, well, I'm going to have car insurance, but what I'm going to do in this car insurance is I'm going to cover every tire change, every oil change. I'm going
Right.
to
Right.
every the antifreeze. If you get a scratch on the car, no problem.
The government's going to mandate that these things are covered by the insurance company. And so the insurance company goes, yeah, your policy is now $4,800 every 6 months for your 2012 Toyota Corolla. And you can go, well, I can't afford that. Oh, don't worry, we have Obamacare, which is a subsidy program, so that
Yeah.
it only costs $480. Oh, well, that's good. That's great. The real cost is still $4,800. So, I mean, the difference is made up by tax dollars, and apparently the federal government has lots of that Wait, no, they don't. They're 37 trillion in the
$1
hole.
trillion in debt. Yeah. So they're actually borrowing money from China and other places in order to pay for health
Those,
care
yes, for illegal immigrants.
for illegal immigrants, which is the big lie. Because every time Democrats say Oregonians or people, they say they leave out the fact that these are people who ran across the border and showed up in our emergency rooms and got by law free health care and then passed the bill on to Medicaid, and
Yep.
suddenly they're going to have to like certify that that's not actually happening with federal dollars, and Oregon's like, oh no. Well, that's because Oregon committed themselves also to writing blank checks to illegal immigrants for everything and creating a sanctuary where they can't be removed, even if they're hardened,
Right.
felons. And
Right.
then they try to make it fungible so that the federal money never really can be traced to the fact that it's actually being used to
Right.
subsidize hundreds of thousands of people who are not citizens. Meanwhile, citizens on the exchange, they try to get insurance, and it's like, well, that'll be a $7,000 deductible. Uh,
Right.
so that means you don't really have insurance
Right.
until you've racked up $7,000 in
Yeah,
bills in a year.
it's a mess. I mean, insurance, like you said, it should be every flavor for everybody is what it should be. And so that,
Customized.
if a company wants to get in the market and insure 20-year-olds that have very low risk, and so their premiums are really low and they will cover just the major medical expenses, have at it. And if another business wants to say, nope, we're going to take care of those from 50 to 75 and do Medicare Advantage program on the 65 plus. And before that, but your premium is X and everything's covered. Uh, Great. And I think there should be a smorgasbord of choices of what gets covered and what not. And the government shouldn't be mandating what should be covered or what must be covered and what not. Let the market decide that. Let insurance companies decide that. Let Oregonians or Americans decide that. And we should get rid of these artificial state lines that prohibit one
Yep.
insurance company from selling into another insurance company. States like Wyoming, I can't imagine what that's like with a small population. They may have one provider. I don't know. I guess one provider, two. I don't
Yep.
know, but even California, as large as it is, 46 million, 48 million, they're having trouble with insurance again, just because the mandates make it almost impossible. So
Yeah.
we have to fix the insurance part of it. We have to fix the healthcare part of it, and we got to get the government out of as much of it as possible. Yet Democrats in Oregon are really marching us towards single payer.
They
That's what
are.
they're after. They are absolutely after that, and so they're doing it one mandate at a time, and it's a slow walk. But their aim is to get us there. 1/3 of Oregonians are on Oregon Health Plan. How embarrassing is that? That 1/3 can't afford insurance,
Yep.
or they can, but Oregon Health Plan is a better deal for them.
Yep. Well, and actually the other thing that Obamacare never did, it was never in there. It said it was going to make it affordable, but actually they never did anything to improve the efficiency of the healthcare system
No.
and to increase the supply of healthcare. You and I,
Yes.
we've both received numerous letters, I'm sure, over the years of retiring health providers
Right.
that
Right.
and I don't get letters saying, look at all these great new people that have come in to replace them in larger numbers.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And the system has changed a bit. I've noticed it's not there's like two doctors in the office that I go visit, and there's like five physician assistants and nurse practitioners and so forth. So there's different levels of care, and I think that's probably good. That's kind of inventive of the healthcare industry. But yeah, we do have a problem where we don't have enough doctors, enough primary doctors for sure. And uh, again, as government becomes more and more part of the system and consumes more of it, it's going to start dictating. Well, it does. I mean, with Medicare and Medicaid, it will pay 75% of the cost of that. We'll pay 60% of the cost of that. Well, the only way a healthcare provider can make that up is with somebody who has private insurance. And so that's why the private insurance is so expensive.
Yep, they cost shift. And also, they have put a whole bunch of bureaucratic overhead on the doctors who then have to hire other people to help with that, assuming that's even possible. But if you take a doctor who could be seeing X number of people a day and you say, I'm going to give you this much paperwork
Yep.
to do, they're going to see less people.
Yeah.
So,
It's certainly a problem. And we passed a bill that mandated who can buy healthcare companies and who can't. And I thought they wanted Democrats wanted private equity out of that market. I'm thinking, well, private equity might be the answer because they're efficient, right? And so they're going to get rid of all the waste and fraud and so forth. And they're going to go right after making sure that they take care of their customers, patients, because you don't want them to die or get sick because that costs you more money. They come more often. You want healthy patients. And so, anyways, it's I think that we've got a long way to go, but it's doable. It certainly is doable to make it affordable again.
well, and so that's kind of what's underlying this whole debate that's going on. I hope people are aware of that. That's a great debate to have after they figure out how to just get the government back open. Because here's a fact:
Yep.
every Democrat member of the Oregon congressional delegation, Senate and House, voted to close the government when there was a bill that would keep it open temporarily long enough to go and start working on all these issues like appropriations and
Right now, they would be negotiating and working together to find a compromise to pass a budget, right?
yeah.
While the government was open, as opposed to it's closed, and so we're all wringing our hands over the fact that people aren't going to get paid, like military members. Yeah.
I'm told that, once air traffic control starts delaying a third of all the flights and the people start rioting in some of the bigger cities, just going into Walmart and, Kroger and all these places and just walking out with food because there's no SNAP benefits on there to use.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, that's kind of the chaos that the Marxist likes, right?
Yeah.
This is what a leftist likes, is this kind of chaos. And you make people dependent on government, and then you remove that and blame others, you blame the fascists. And then people get upset and said, well, heck with it. Nobody's looking out for me anymore. I'm just going to take matters into my own hands and take that can of black olives. They're mine.
Yeah.
I'm running. I'm going.
Grabbing it and going. Well, this is so, all of these issues, all these things that are happening, and I don't know if there is still talk of another special session. It's really hard to say. I mean, I don't know if you've heard anything, but there was some talk that they would do something to take us off of the connect with the federal taxes and in Oregon.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's still anticipated, but that's a big deal. And I think people will find their taxes go up, especially in certain categories, quite significantly, like, the billionaires that make money off of overtime and tips. They're going to see
exactly.
go way up.
The fact is, right now in 2025, every person that earns tips, I think up to $25,000 in tips, and every person making overtime up to a certain amount, that money is tax-free. It is not being taxed by the federal government, nor will it be taxed by the state of Oregon. What Democrats want to do at the state legislature, and again, this is why I say you should be paying attention to what's happening in the legislature, not what's happening at a building in downtown Portland, even though that's more exciting. But what's happening in the legislature is they want to take that tax break away from Oregonians at the state level. So federally, you won't pay taxes, but state you will. And so I think that's a crying shame, because the people who need this tax break are the people who are getting it, those that make their money and mostly on tips, whether that's waiters or baristas or people who cut your hairdresser, or on and on it goes. People who make a good portion of their income through tips or overtime. Those are not taxed right now. Right now, the law is that those are not taxed, and Democrats want to change that by, quote, disconnecting is the term, to tax you on those things, as if it was 2024, as if the one big beautiful bill did not pass, as if President Trump and a Republican Congress didn't give you a great gift. They did, and Democrats want to take it away.
And they want to take away the non-taxation of Social Security benefits too. You know,
Right.
the super wealthy people that are dependent on Social Security benefits.
The Warren Buffetts, the Phil Knights, exactly. Yes.
So this is the absurdity of what's going on. I mean, if people realized what's going on, I guess they would feel differently. And you know what? Maybe they will feel differently. So why don't we just kind of segue into the 2026 election news from today and from the past few weeks and where we're heading for next year. So today, Christine Drazan, who was the 2022 nominee for governor for Republicans, announced her run for governor and to challenge the likely Democrat nominee, Tina Kotek. There's already one person, a Marion County Commissioner, Danielle Bethel, who's announced that she's running and has been at this for several months. There's rumors that Chris Dudley, the 2010 nominee of Republicans, might actually throw his hat in the ring.
Yeah.
I don't know if it goes beyond that, but they're not doing this because they think Tina Kotek is unbeatable. And apparently she's well at the bottom of the approval ratings across compared to other governors in the United States.
Yep. All she has to be is more popular than all the other candidates, right? So doesn't matter whether she's the worst, the best of the worst, as they say in the nation. I mean, that's interesting, but really all she has to do is to beat the Republican and or independent and or whoever else runs candidate. And I think, in 2022, we were still in COVID. I believe not many people knew who Tina Kotek was. I mean, those in the know, like yourself and like me, I knew she was a speaker. I served under in the House chamber with her being speaker. So I was very familiar with her for about 5 years, 4 years. No, five. Yeah. Anyways, I'll figure out the math. There's 4 digits there. I got to kind of work through my head.
Yeah.
2022 minus 2070. Yeah, 5 years. So, anyways, but I think the average Oregonian didn't know. Average Oregonian knew about Governor Brown and didn't like Governor Brown. And Governor Brown, if she were to run, probably would not have done well. But Tina was kind of new. She was different. She is very politically smart. And she also, in 2022, we had a couple other things going on. First is the Republican primary had about 20 candidates.
Yep.
Well, it took a while to kind of figure out who was who and what was what and who was going to vote where and whatever. And when you get a winner out of that, it's hard to bring all those people together and say, let's go forward together as a team. And so I think that hurt our nominee, who was Christine Drazan at the time, was that we were so fractured by 20 different flavors. Yep. And the other thing that was going on is that Betsy Johnson ran. And Betsy Johnson ran as an independent. She was a Democrat. But in the final numbers, she took more Republican votes away from Drazan than she took Democrat votes away from Tina Kotek. And so really, in the end, she hurt Drazan opportunity. So,
and it was only a 2-point race.
Yeah. So we have a known Tina Kotek this time. We don't have 20 candidates. We'll probably have 3, maybe 4, maybe 5. And again, I think this is a different ballgame. And we have 4 years of what an administration, Tina Kotek administration, looks like, and it's not great. I mean, whether you want to talk about homelessness, whether you want to talk about mental health, whether you want to talk about public education or public safety or transportation or pick your flavor, it's not great. It's not great at all. And to want to vote for more of that, I just don't understand.
We're at the bottom of every list except for the list of how much of people who are paying the most for it. And,
Right.
you know,
You would think, I heard a statistic that since 2001 or 2000, the state budget has quadrupled. You would think we'd have streets of gold. We'd have MBAs coming out of high school. You would think that there would be no crime because we'd have so many police officers and so much healthcare work. You would think that's what's going on because we pay
it'd be a
$4.
utopia. It'd be a
Yeah.
utopia. There would be this ninth wonder of the world crossing
Yeah.
the Columbia River.
Yeah, exactly. Matter of fact, they may even offer a service where you don't have to drive your car. You get in the passenger seat, somebody drives it for you or something. I don't know, but I mean, it's bizarre that we pay so much in taxes and there's so many regulations, and yet this state is, like you said, at the bottom of the list, no matter where you look, except for, well, affordability. We're at the bottom of the list as well. So.
And we're starting to see other candidates step forward. I think Monique Despain, who ran against Val Hoyle for Congress in
Yeah.
2024, came close. But sometimes when you run a second time and everybody knows you and you kind of get a nice head start, you can
Yep.
actually make a pretty good second run of that. She announced a few weeks ago a
And
rematch.
her opponent, I think Congressman Hoyle, has had a few bumps along the way here that she didn't have in 24. So I think that could be, some headwinds she's got to overcome.
Yep, she apparently had 215 violations of the Federal Stock Act that she just didn't fix for a year, and
Okay.
things like that. Which, so, and I know that we're going to see more candidates stepping forward for many other offices, but I think we should be optimistic. And we should be paying close attention to this because, in order to change the direction of the state, we have to be aware of the issues and the impact, and then we have to have people that step forward who are going to represent us and change that direction.
Yep.
And it looks like we're starting to get that.
Yep. The campaign season has begun, as they say.
It is afoot, and don't bother with what the media tells you to think because they're not real good at predicting things
No.
at this point. So I think we just have.
Hillary had a 93%, 97% chance of winning going into the 2016 election that night, and didn't seem to work that way.
Nope. And so stay optimistic. We're the grand optimistic party. We know we can overcome these problems and we can actually change who's leading the state, even in a place where it's been misled for so long. And every sense of that word, misled. And now we have an opportunity to right the ship. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to be on with us here tonight. Are there any last thoughts you wanted to share before we wind up for the evening?
No, I think be diligent, be vigilant. As that's the price for freedom. I think we have a lot to be thankful for in this state. I think it's a beautiful state, and California is fascinating. The Steve Hilton run for governor, I guess he's up a point on the Democrat leading candidate, which will be fascinating if California gets a true conservative in the governor's office. I've said that one of the three states along the West Coast has to go to the right. And once it does, it will embarrass the other two states so much that they'll have to reform. So we have to break through the dam. Right now, it's kind of like people on the West Coast think north-south. We don't think really going east very much. And so, we compare gas prices to Washington or to California. We never compare prices to Idaho or Nevada. People don't do that. So I just think that if they can break through, or we can break through, or we can break through together with a Republican governor, oh my, I think we can really change things up in a hurry.
It could be a tectonic shift and a great welcome opportunity. By the way, I do want to mention to folks, they can check you out on WarnerForOregon.com. That's FOR, Oregon.com. And you had a really good commentary from a couple of weeks ago, just talking about Charlie Kirk, transportation tax, Portland violence. And I urge everyone to take a look at these and follow you because you do this. Plus, you have very good remonstrances and stuff that when the
nobody knows what a remonstrance is, Kevin. But thank you very much. They're
Well,
speeches of protest.
it is. It's a speech of protest where you speak your mind and you actually say what needs to be said. And Democrats hate them because they can't silence you very
We
easily.
smile and we speak truth, right? We're happy warriors, as we like to say. But yeah, I think I'll have another newsletter coming out this week. So sign up if you haven't already at warnerfororegon.com. Or you can go to my state legislature website and sign up there. It'll probably go out from there, but I will send it out to everyone who signs up, and it's good stuff. I'm going to be talking about the two bad choices that the state of Oregon faces concerning environmental laws, cap and trade versus the climate protection program, and both are awful choices, and we should do something different.
Yep, it's kind of like, do you want to be shot or electrocuted?
Right.
I don't know.
Well,
That's
right. Neither is my answer.
yeah, the false choices exactly. Well,
Right.
thank you for being the ever happy warrior and keeping us informed and fighting the good fight. And we'll be watching for your next newsletter as well. Thank you,
All right.
Representative Bresky. I appreciate it, and
Thanks, Kevin.
we'll see you on when you join us again here in another few crazy weeks, because I'm sure we've got some great stuff coming up.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode of The Captive Audience tomorrow night. I have Dave Huguenel coming on. He's going to give us some comments on national and Oregon political trends, and he always has something interesting to share with us. We'll see you tomorrow night and the next one. Have a good night.